This video is going to talk about how to construct an altitude of a triangle. The requirements to construct an altitude is going to be two parts, kind of like how we had to for the perpendicular bisector. The altitude of a triangle is indeed a perpendicular segment. However, this perpendicular segment must be perpendicular to the opposite side of the triangle. In addition to that perpendicular segment, it needs to connect to the vertex on the opposite side of the triangle. So what I mean by that, if we look at these two triangles right down here, this first PRQ that I'm circling with my mouse, notice how this blue line right here is perpendicular to PR, but in addition to being perpendicular to PR, it connects to point Q. This makes it an altitude. Moving over to this one, and we'll look at one of these as well. Notice how this altitude does not go inside of the triangle. So in order for it to meet the requirement, this segment actually connects outside of the triangle. So this blue segment is going through Q, and even though it's not touching PR, it is perpendicular to PR. And I will go right ahead to cut to the chase. There will be a point of concurrency when we construct this, like the other three we've done in the prior videos if you haven't watched them yet. But this point of concurrency we're going to give the name of orthocenter. It's called the orthocenter, and we'll talk about more why that is during class time. So I'm going to do two quick examples actually of how to do this, because depending on if you're working with an acute angle or an obtuse angle, it's going to make a difference of where you draw that altitude, okay? So the easiest way to do this is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a point here. I want to connect this vertex to this side down here at the bottom. And I'm going to do that, remember that it has to be perpendicular. So there's a few ways to do this. I find the easiest way is to use our handy dandy ruler. Because what's nice about the ruler is at the end here, this side and this side form a 90-degree angle. And so if I were to take my ruler here, and I have a few things to get out of the way, if I line up my ruler tall end here so that this is flush, I just basically now need to drag my ruler along this side until it touches the point. And there I go. Of all the segments that we have been constructing, this one's probably the hardest to do. And it may also involve the most mistakes. So if, please, I urge you, and I'm even using one for this one, I'm going to use a pencil to draw in my altitude. Okay? So there I have it. A good way to check to see if your altitude is good, and I made a little bit of a markup here. A good way to verify is to take out the protractor that you've been using and just verify that it makes that upside down T that the protractor was. If you don't know what I mean by that, go back to the perpendicular bisector video and you can verify. But you can see my line goes through 90, so that works as well. Okay? And you would do that with all the other sides. So I'll do one more with the acute triangle. So I want to connect this vertex with this side down here. So once again, and I apologize, the triangle's a little too large for the camera screen, but what I'm going to do right now is, I'll show you the bottom part. I'm going to take my ruler and line it up with the side of my triangle, and I'm going to essentially drag it along there, kind of taking it for a ride until it connects with the vertex. And again, I know you can't see the vertex on here, but I have just met the vertex right there. I'll pull down to show you. So right there, that particular segment, maybe I need to move it more to the center. This is going to be my altitude. And so, keeping that ruler in place so that you don't make a mistake, you draw in your altitude. Now, I can assure you that when I draw my third one, it will probably go through this point. And if it doesn't, there will be a problem. But let's talk about the obtuse triangle briefly, because this is going to be the trickier one to be able to draw an altitude. So you may be able to figure out, well, this side, drawing this altitude right here, and I'm just going to hand draw it, would be pretty easy. The problem is when you get to a side like this. So let's flip it. I need to have this vertex over here. Let me get my marker. I need this vertex to connect to this side of the triangle in a perpendicular fashion. And the problem is it's not going to touch the actual triangle itself. So I need to essentially extend my triangle's length right along this pencil here. So this right now is essentially an extension of my side. It's not part of the triangle, but now it's going to allow me to do that ruler trick that I showed you on the last triangle. So I'm going to take this and line it up, and then again I'm going to drag it, and this time I'll drag the paper along here. until it meets that vertex. And so once I do, and again, looks like right there is about as good as it's going to get. Let's go ahead and let me move this back, and we'll draw that in. And so this line right here, not this one, this is not the altitude right here. This one right here that I'm going to put a dotted green line on the screen here, that is the altitude of this particular side. I'm going to have to repeat that as well for this side. So I'm going to have to extend, and I'm just going to be repeating this a second time. So nothing new here at this point. I'm going to extend this farther down so that I'm able to now connect this vertex to be perpendicular to this side. And so roughly, with a quick drawing here, right about there looks to be pretty good. And I will connect that, okay? And you'll obviously need to extend yours a little bit more for that. That'll conclude this video. Make sure that you've had a chance to watch all 4 videos on all 4 triangle construction segments, and take a look at your project paper for other details in regards to this.